welcome to the first semi-live Foley demonstration. My name is Kayla Pearson and I am a senior at Middle Tennessee State University. This Foley demonstration is a part of my creative thesis project and I hope you enjoy and find it informational. Alright, so what we're looking at right now is a new session that I opened up in Logic Pro X, which is my preferred DAW, or digital audio workstation, for those of you who don't know what that means. So this is our starting prompt. This is Logic asking us, what do you want to do? Since we're doing Foley, we are only going to be recording sounds. We're not needing any musical component at the moment. We're not composing for the clips. We are just doing sound effects. So for the purpose of this demonstration, we're only going to be using audio tracks, and as you can see, that is what's selected right now. The only thing that I'm changing on this prompt is this number down here. Right now, the default is 1 audio track. I know that I'm going to be needing a lot more, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change this to 15. I'd rather have too many than not enough, so hopefully I don't run out of tracks and have to annoyingly keep adding new ones as I'm trying to focus on doing other things. So this is my favorite bass number to start off with. So I'm just going to move over here and create, and you can see that it has created those 15 audio tracks for me. They're all highlighted right here. And I can see down here on this last audio track that I am getting input from something. Now, our next step is double checking and just making sure that the output and input devices are correctly set. And I'm going to do that by coming up here to Logic Pro X, Preferences, and then Audio. That will open up this box here. And we're just going to look at the output and the input devices here. And it looks like my output device is set to my external headphones. That's great, that's exactly what I want, so I'm not going to change anything. And it looks like the input device is set to the USB microphone that I'm using right now. Again, perfect, not going to touch or change anything. So we're just going to close this box here. And the final thing that we want to do is import our video clip. We will do this by coming over to File, Movie, Open Movie, and it'll bring up this dialog box asking you where they are, essentially. I already know that I have them in a file on my hard drive here, so I'm just going to find this Thesis Foley file, open the video clips file within it, and I'm going to select this Jurassic Park scene. I'm going to hit open, and then it will ask us, 1, if we really want the movie, and 2, if we want it to separate the audio from the video. Extract the audio track will not delete the audio track. It will still play with the movie that is within the DAW. You just will no longer have control over the volume of that track. You won't be able to delete the audio from the movie without deleting the movie as a whole. So I'm going to leave both of these checked and hit OK. And the next prompt we're given is that the movie frame rate doesn't match the project frame rate. This generally is a pretty big issue. I'm not going to dive into the ins and outs of what happens if your frame rate doesn't match. That's not really my focus right now. So just my general rule of thumb, you always want to use whatever the movie frame rate is. This will generally give you smoother playback and it'll just save you from a multitude of other problems down the road. So we're going to hit use the 23.976. And we can already see it's opened up that video clip for us in this big movie window here. I'm going to just move it out of the way a little bit so we can still see that everything that's going on within our DAW. This track here, notice how it has the same name as the movie. This is the audio that was extracted from this movie clip. It's not anything that I'm interested in since I am creating my own sound effects. In fact, I don't even want to hear the original sound just because I don't want to be too terribly biased, if you will, while I'm creating my own effects. So, two things you can do. Either you can just mute the track, it's not there, and then after I finish, if I want to listen to the original and compare it against mine, see what I did differently, if I missed anything that the original Foley artist deemed of being important, if I didn't put any of that in there. But for now, I'm just going to leave it muted. I'm not going to touch it. So when I play the movie back, it becomes completely silent. The picture is still moving, but you're not hearing any of the original audio from the movie, which is exactly what we want to start off with. So I will go ahead and shrink this again. Move that over to the side. Alright, so the only button I'm going to worry about over here is this R here. That's our record enable button. You want to make sure you click on it, because if you come here to hit record, it won't record anything. It doesn't know what track it's supposed to be following when you record. So this is a very important button to press over here. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to move this playhead here to the beginning. Make sure everything looks good. Generally, in the more professional field, you would go through, you would make note of different time codes so you know exactly when a sound effect is happening. But for the sake of this kind of being an easy, laid-back Foley demonstration, I'm just going to make sounds with what I'm seeing in real time, which is more or less what Foley artists do. Just give and take a couple of those cues and hit points. So the first thing that I want to try to recreate is the foliage, the sound of the leaves and bushes kind of rustling around as the hunter, if you will, is kind of moving through this jungle scene. So I have a pile of fake leaves. I have a kind of soft, squishy pillow underneath. If we kind of shake the leaves around a bit, kind of give them a little, we can kind of emulate if there's a breeze and little blades of the fern or grass is shuffling around, and we'll be able to pick that up as well. So I am going to enlarge this video a little bit just so you can see it better and so you can see it recording at the same time. And I'm just going to go up here and hit the record button. I will be quiet so you can hear everything that is going on sound effect wise. So I'm stopping this clip here just immediately after the velociraptor pounces and more or less mutilates the poor guy. But I have this. It doesn't look like there's anything. If you look really closely, you can kind of see right where my mouse is, a tiny little pop there. There's another little pop right here. The waveform is just really small, so it kind of looks like there isn't anything on this track. Generally, I would do a couple of different takes, but for, again, the sake of ease, this first take honestly sounds completely fine to me, so I'm just going to go ahead and move on. The next sound effect that I would like to capture are the sounds of his gun clicking as he is trying to fold that little kind of arm brace piece out. So I'm going to scrub through the video. I'm going to find when he really kind of starts handling the gun, which is about right here. And notice how I have my second audio track selected and record enabled. And for this, I have a lighter to hopefully kind of give that kind of click sound. And I do also have a pin for the same kind of click. Might be a little too high pitched, but we'll see. It's all about experimentation, really. So I'm gonna go ahead, try to get a couple passes on this. If I like the first one, then again, we're just gonna keep kind of chugging along here. Alright. So I didn't get the second click in here that I wanted to when he folds this little thing down. So I'm going to move down to the third audio track, record enable. I'm just going to start it right here so I can get that click in as well. Alright. So now we'll listen back to this. Alright, that's a little late, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take this little region, I'm just going to kind of scooch it over a little bit and see if it lines up any better. So a little behind, scooch it over some more. Just a teeny bit more. Alright, that looks like it kind of snaps into place at the right time. And it is a little high pitched for my liking, but with some more audio editing further down in the post-production process, they can pitch that down and it'll sound a little more natural. So I'm now going to move down to our fourth audio track, record enable. And the sound effects that I'm wanting to focus on here will be during the raptor attack. So I'm going to scrub here just a couple of moments before it pounces on him. I'm going to move these objects out of the way. And here I have a plate of celery and carrots. They make excellent bone crunching sounds. So I'll do 1 or 2 passes so we can kind of get a little variety in there. Just because, in my opinion, I feel like in this scene, we can imply that being jumped on by a raptor has broken a few bones. So to kind of help exemplify that, we're gonna crack some celery and carrots and see how it sounds. Alright, we'll listen back to that really quick. Alright, did catch a little bit of me hitting the mic there, so we'll kind of just make that go away. Pretend like it never happened. Gotta cut a little more of that off. And with another pass of this, I'll do another celery stick. So audio track 5, record enable, will come just for the sake of ease and start at the same spot that we started at with this other audio file here. Alright, I know I hit the mic a couple of more times there, but it's okay. Alright, we're cutting it before that point anyway, so again, we'll just kind of trim it off. I just realized that you haven't been able to hear any of the playback, which this is okay. It's a good learning lesson, happens to the best of us. So I'm going to change my output device to this funky name, but you know, trust me, this should help. So now I should be able to hear it, and you should be able to hear it on playback too. I'm content with the passes we did with the celery. Again, with some few more audio editing effects in the post-production house, and it'll more or less sound like the real deal. So the next thing I'm going to focus on instead is, we all know that this poor guy is probably getting chewed on a little bit in this scene. So bone crunching isn't going to be the only thing that we're hearing. Sorry if that grosses you out. But to kind of get more of that meaty kind of guts sound, I have a bowl of wet noodles here. If you just listen for a second. Not super appetizing. It kind of gives you that squish that I guess human flesh would. So we're going to take a couple of passes of that. Past that, but my hands have a little bit of water on them now. So let's see if we can listen back. Alright, didn't really come through, so again, I will delete that and we will try again. Might need to get the microphone a little bit closer to it. Alright, let's see if that one's any better. And one thing we can do as well, is solo the track so that we aren't hearing anything else. Alright, now the end of that does honestly kind of just sound like a bowl of wet noodles. And it's not in the scene that we want either, so we will just, as with the other things, trim it away. Now, let's see what we're left with. Alright, and if we pair that with the other body sounds that we made, alright, so we're kind of just going to trim that off a little bit more. And the few little kind of microphone bumps that you hear in there, when covered with the foliage sound that we made up here, kind of with the shuffling and the like, that kind of covers that pretty well. Alright, so I think that sounds pretty good so far. Obviously, you know, I would prefer to do a little more editing to it. Logic, while it is my favorite DAW to use, it isn't super friendly on the audio editing side. I would most likely take these audio files that I have and open them in another DAW, probably Pro Tools, which is pretty much the industry standard. But if we go back, we can listen on a full pass of everything. I'll make this screen a little bigger. So, doesn't seem like it's anything fantastic, but we do have to keep in mind, more likely than not, there will be some sort of music on top of this. That music really helps to bring life to the sound effects that Foley artists are doing, because it kind of helps put you in an emotional state, so your brain is more likely to hear the weird objects we're using as the sound that is being perceived on the screen. And as much as I would love to make the kind of growling and the chirping that velociraptors make, that is more or less kind of the job of sound designers. They'll take the sound effects of other animals that already exist in the wild and whatnot. Foley artists can and are sometimes tasked with recreating animal sounds, but if you ask any Foley artist out there, animal sounds are the hardest sounds to recreate as a Foley artist, so that would explain why it's not a frequent ask. And just because it is so difficult as humans to kind of mimic the motions and cries and calls of other animals. But I am satisfied with the quick little pass we did. I really hope that this was informational. This definitely has a lot more like kind of sciencey, fun, body squishy sound effect stuff. In the next live demonstration, I'm going to be doing the ending fight scene from the Revenant fight scenes. There's a lot of sound, and yet there isn't a lot of sound, and you'll kind of see and understand that when we get into that demonstration for the fight scene, just because there isn't a whole lot of creativity. It's just mimicking the clothes and movements and actions of what's on screen, which, yes, is fundamentally Foley, but it's, I guess, more of your kind of boring practical side as opposed to creative. Let's squish some wet noodles between our fingers and make some ooey gooey sounds. But I hope that this first demonstration was informational, and if this isn't anything that you want to do for a living, I kind of hope that, one, I've ruined movies to some extent for you. Hopefully your ears are kind of open to understanding that those sounds aren't the sounds that you're perceiving, aren't the sounds that you believe you're actually hearing. And, maybe you can be a know-it-all. Alright, but thank you for your time, and I will see you in the second demonstration.